Kardashians?
I love them. I love them. Like, I really do. Like, okay, so everybody kind of loves a bit of it. You know, my mum, she's always like, I can't watch it. But then she sits there and she's like, you know?
At 16 years old, while playing 11 in Stranger Things, she was battling an invisible enemy that nobody knew about. Lyme disease, a tick-borne illness that attacks your joints, your nerves, your entire body's ability to function. While she was filming scenes that would captivate millions, her body was breaking down in ways she couldn't explain to anyone. The pain was constant. The fatigue was crushing. And she had to show up to set every day and pretend to be a superhero while her own body was turning against her. She kept it secret for years. She suffered in silence. And then came the moment when she couldn't hide it anymore. When Millie Bobby Brown had to choose between her career and her health. What she chose and what that choice cost her is a story about the price of fame when your body refuses to cooperate. Before we dive in, if this kind of story moves you, take a second to subscribe to The Untold Story and hit the bell. We cover the real stories behind famous lives, the ones that go deeper than any headline ever will. Now, let's get into it. Millie Bobby Brown was born on February 19, 2004, in Marbella, Spain, to English parents who dreamed of something more than suburban life. Her family moved from Spain to Bournemouth, England, then to Kent. Constant motion, constant adaptation. By the time she was old enough to understand what she wanted, she knew she wanted to act. Not as a hobby, as a life, as a calling. She began taking acting classes as a child. She auditioned for roles. She booked small parts in British television shows, Intruders, Grey's Anatomy, Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. The work was there, but the recognition wasn't. She was one of thousands of young actors in the industry, all competing for the same limited roles, all hoping for the breakthrough that would change everything. By her early teens, she had built a respectable resume. She had experience. She had training. She had determination that went beyond what most teenagers her age could even conceptualize. But she didn't have fame. She had the structure of a career without the visibility that made it matter. She kept auditioning. She kept getting rejected more often than accepted. She kept showing up, kept trying, kept believing that one day something would shift. Then, in 2015, at age 11, she auditioned for a show called Stranger Things. The role was 11, a girl with telekinetic powers escaping a secret government laboratory. It was a supporting character in what seemed like a modest Netflix production. Nobody knew what was about to happen. Stranger Things premiered on July 15, 2016. Within days, it became a phenomenon. Not gradually, not over time, immediately. The show captivated audiences in a way that surprised everyone, including Netflix. People binged it. They talked about it obsessively. They rewatched it, and they couldn't stop talking about the girl who played 11. Millie Bobby Brown was suddenly completely famous. At 16 years old, she went from relative obscurity to being recognized everywhere. Millions of people knew her name. Billions of people saw her face. Magazine covers, award nominations, convention appearances, interviews on major television shows. The pace was disorienting. The demands were relentless. There was no transition period. There was no time to adjust to being globally recognized. One day, she was a working actor auditioning for roles. The next day, she was 11. She was iconic. She was a breakout star. She was the girl that everyone wanted to meet, talk to, photograph, interview. The pressure was immense. The expectations were enormous. And beneath all of it, something was terribly wrong with her body. She attributed the fatigue to stress. The joint pain she attributed to the physical demands of filming. The brain fog she assumed was a side effect of the sudden intensity of her life. Everyone gets tired. Everyone has aches. She was 16 years old in the middle of filming a show that had become a global phenomenon. Of course she was exhausted, but it was something much deeper than exhaustion. Lyme disease is caused by a tick bite carrying Borrelia burgdorferi bacteria. It's common in certain regions. It's often misdiagnosed because the symptoms are vague and can mimic dozens of other conditions: joint pain, fatigue, brain fog, neurological issues, muscle aches. A list of symptoms that could describe anything from depression to overwork to vitamin deficiency. Most people get tested, get treated with antibiotics, and recover. But some people, and the exact percentage is debated, develop chronic Lyme disease, a condition where the symptoms persist for years, where the fatigue becomes disabling, where the pain becomes a constant companion that never fully leaves. Millie Bobby Brown was diagnosed with Lyme disease at the height of her career. She was in the middle of filming Stranger Things. She was doing interviews. She was attending events. She was building a brand and a career and a public image. And she had just learned that her body was under attack by an invisible disease that most people have never heard of. Nobody in the industry knew. Nobody on set knew. Her friends didn't know. Her family tried to support her. But the industry's machinery doesn't stop for illness. The filming schedule doesn't pause. The promotional appearances don't get canceled. The expectations don't diminish. She had a choice: reveal the diagnosis and risk being labeled fragile, damaged, unreliable. The kind of labels that can destroy a young actor's career before it really starts. Or hide it, suffer in silence, show up to work every day, and pretend that everything was fine. She chose silence. Filming Stranger Things is not gentle work. The scenes are emotionally intense. The stunts are physically demanding. The hours are long. The cold weather on set in Atlanta exacerbates every pain, every ache, every joint issue. She had to move precisely. She had to deliver lines perfectly. She had to cry on command. She had to be vulnerable and powerful and terrified and brave, all while her body was systematically failing her. The pain started in her joints, her knees, her shoulders, the kind of pain that makes you wince when you move, that makes you hesitate before standing up, that reminds you every single moment that your body is not cooperating with what you're asking it to do. The fatigue was worse than the pain. She would wake up exhausted. After 8 hours of sleep, she would still be exhausted. She would film all day, sometimes 16-hour days, and then come home and collapse. Not the healthy tiredness of work well done. The crushing exhaustion of a body that had nothing left to give. The brain fog made everything harder. Remembering lines became a challenge. Concentrating on direction became difficult. There were moments on set where she would lose track of what she was supposed to be doing, where her mind would go blank, where she would have to fake it until her mind caught up with what her body was supposed to be doing. She took medication to manage the pain. She wore compression clothing to support her joints. She used makeup to hide the physical toll. She smiled for photographs. She gave interviews. She performed 11 with precision and emotion and power. Nobody knew that she was also performing the role of a girl who was fine, a girl who wasn't suffering, a girl whose body wasn't breaking down underneath her. For years, she carried the secret alone, or nearly alone. Her family knew. A few close people knew. But the world didn't know. The industry didn't know. Her castmates didn't fully understand the extent of what she was managing. There were days when the pain was so severe that she wasn't sure she could make it through filming. Days when the fatigue was so crushing that showing up felt impossible. Days when she considered quitting, when she thought about walking away from Stranger Things, away from the fame, away from the pressure, and just trying to get her health back. But she didn't quit. She showed up. She performed. She kept the secret locked inside, buried beneath layers of professionalism and determination, and the kind of resilience that comes from having no other choice. The weight of hiding it was heavier than the weight of the disease itself, because the disease was just physical. The hiding required emotional energy. It required constantly monitoring what she said, how she moved, what she revealed. It required performing wellness while experiencing unwellness. By 2021, 6 years after her diagnosis, she had reached a breaking point. She couldn't carry the secret alone anymore. The weight of it was too much. The isolation of it was too much. The shame of it. The feeling that she should be strong enough to handle this, that she should be fine, that she was weak for struggling, had become unbearable. She made a decision. She decided to tell the world. In 2022, Millie Bobby Brown publicly revealed her Lyme disease diagnosis. She didn't announce it in a press release. She didn't give a formal statement to the media. She revealed it on her own terms, in her own way, when she was ready. She talked about living with the condition while building her career. She talked about the pain. She talked about the fear that it might end her ability to work. She talked about what it meant to suffer invisibly while being so visibly famous. The response was overwhelming, not pity, recognition. People with Lyme disease reached out. People with invisible illnesses reached out. People who understood what it meant to suffer in silence, hide pain, to perform wellness while experiencing unwellness. They reached out and said, "I see you. I understand. You're not alone." By going public, she transformed her private shame into public advocacy. She became a voice for people whose illnesses nobody can see. She became permission for others to stop hiding. She became proof that you can be sick and still be strong. You can have a disease and still have a career. You can suffer and still have a life. The disease didn't disappear. Lyme disease doesn't work that way. Chronic Lyme disease is chronic. It persists. It's something you manage, not something you cure. But by naming it, by owning it, by refusing to let it be the secret that defined her, she took back power over the narrative of her own life. She continued filming Stranger Things. She continued taking on new roles. She continued building her career. She continued being Millie Bobby Brown, not despite the disease, but alongside it, with it, carrying it openly, instead of hiding it secretly. Millie Bobby Brown was 16 years old when she became famous. She was 17 when she learned she had Lyme disease. For 6 years, she carried the secret alone, while the world watched her perform 11 with power and precision. She suffered in silence while smiling for cameras. She fought an invisible battle while winning visible battles. Then she chose vulnerability. She chose to name the disease instead of hiding it. She chose to be honest about the cost of her fame instead of pretending it was costless. What her story teaches us is that invisible illnesses are still illnesses. That pain hidden is pain multiplied. That strength isn't about hiding what's broken. It's about acknowledging the break and choosing to live fully anyway. At 20 years old, Millie Bobby Brown had survived something that could have destroyed her. Not by ignoring it, not by pushing through it, but by facing it, by naming it, by refusing to let it be the secret that defined her. What part of Millie Bobby Brown's story moved you most? Her willingness to keep working despite the pain, her courage in going public, or her transformation into an advocate for invisible illnesses? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, check out our other celebrity health crisis stories on The Untold Story, because the most powerful stories are often the ones about what we're willing to endure and how we find strength in naming what we've survived. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a story that deserves to be told.